Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations, my friends. I'm your host, Linda Joy, Mindset Mojo mentor, intentional living guide, and publisher of Aspire magazine, the beloved inspirational magazine for women since 2006. You know, I think we all have conversations these days about abundance, about owning our worth, about welcoming and calling in wealth. And I don't know about you, but it's a topic that I have struggled with for many years. Okay, truth is decades. And that's why I am super excited to have an old and dear friend with me today. Joining me is Anjel B Hartwell. Anjel is an internationally known artist, author, and evolutionary alchemist. Honored as a Be the Change Movement to Watch award winner and considered one of America's premier experts, she has appeared multiple, and I mean multiple, times in major media and is the creator, executive producer, and host of the 4-time award-winning and Apple #1 internationally ranked Wickedly Smart Women podcast. Her transformational book, Be Heard by Millions and Live Your Destiny, was a #1 new release in 3 categories. She is hired to consult with high-achieving, visionary leaders who are called to be the vanguard of the creative age. Welcome, my dear friend.
Oh, I am so delighted to be here, Linda. Thank you so much for having me. I remember back in the day, I was one of the contributors to your magazine, and I still have the framed piece from when I was in Aspire when it was print. So it's such a delight to be here with you again today.
Well, you know, we do, my friend. We go back, way back when Aspire was in print between 2006, 2009. You spoke at my events when I was hosting large women's events. And I've watched your evolution as a woman, as a business owner, as this, darn creatrix. And I've always admired the way you navigate life, the way you navigate decision making in your business. And like all of us, we've all had our ups, downs, twists, and turns. And you're always such a beacon of light for so many on the path. So let's go back a little bit. Tell me about your background, how you became the wealthy life mentor, and in the journey that led you to today.
Well, thank you so much, Linda, for the question. Because yes, it has been a lot of ups and downs and rounds and side tracks and falling downs and picking ups and all the things that are part of our life journey. I think one of the things that I used to talk about when I first got into the personal development space was being an entrepreneur. It's like a twofold path of spiritual growth, right? You could be doing spiritual growth and then you could be doing entrepreneurship, and it's like doubling down when you do the entrepreneurship. So quick background, I spent actually 18 years in the real estate business. And at the end of that career, I was the national chairperson for my trade association. And I was developing with 2 partners an award-winning community that was 51 single family houses, 56 apartments, and an office building. And then I had my spiritual awakening. And then over the course of several years, I walked away from real estate. And over the course of several years, I gave myself permission to discover all of these latent, unknown parts of me that suddenly appeared when I gave myself that time and I gave myself that space. So during the period of time from about 2003 into 2008, that was all the years of giving myself permission to explore and discover. And I found my author, and I found my artist, and I found my speaker, and I found my performer, and I just found all of these parts of myself. And then ultimately, I ended up needing to bring them all together and start serving again in a new way. And so, in 2008 timeframe, after closing my art gallery and healing arts center, I entered into the personal and professional development space. And that too has been kind of a roller coaster. But for the last 15 years almost, I have served millions of people. I've been heard by millions of people and served millions of people all around the world. And my client base has generated close to $100 million in revenues, the people that I've worked with and served. And so, how I became the wealthy life mentor is it became clear to me as I was going through my own evolutionary journey that I needed to actually design a life and a business that made me feel wealthy according to my own definition of wealth.
I love that, because how you specify your own definition of wealth, because it's quite different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. And so, one of the things I'd like to start with today is giving people what I believe wealth is, like my definition of wealth. And I like to use the acronym THIEF, THIEF, because most of the time, at least in my own journey and what I've seen from colleagues and clients, is we're stealing from one or another of these areas. And so, wealth for me is the sum total of all of the resources that we have available to us. And so, if you want to write down on a piece of paper, THIEF, the resources are time, health, imagination, which is a combination of our intellect and our intuition. It's not one or the other, it's both. They have to be married. And then E is the ecosystem of exchange, which is the web of connections that we build and grow, where we then exchange finances. So that's the one place where the money comes in this definition of wealth. And then the F is fun with our friends, family, and fellows on the journey. And so, all of those things together, the sum total of all of those resources, are how I define wealth. And I want, for myself and for the people I work with, wellness in each of these areas. And what I've seen is that we are very frequently stealing. Like we'll say, oh, I'm going to take Thursday off, but oh, I'll slip this in on Thursday. I'll just slip this in. And that's stealing. That's literally stealing and betraying and lying to yourself. Like if we set a course for how we want our life to look, and then we nibble at the edges of that, then ultimately that's going to be depleting in one or more of these resources.
I love the acronym. And, as I was trying to keep up with you, I have it all written down. So time, health, imagination, which is intellect and intuition, which I really love that combination, the ecosystem of exchange, and then fun, which is with friends and fellows and family. My question for you is, I love what you said is wellness in all areas, right? Because I can think of many times in my journey where it's like, shit, I forgot about having fun while I'm growing a business, right? Or maybe I was working 60-hour weeks. So I can see where there was quite a few times in my journey that I was not in the energy of wellness in some of those areas.
And that is actually wellness. Well is the root of the word wealth. If you look at the linguistics, wellness is the root of the word wealth. So, when we're talking about wealth, our culture certainly has distorted wealth to just mean the money piece. And we are here, I believe, you and I and others like us, the leading visionaries that we lead, and you and I as leading visionaries, we are here to actually role model and embody and live and create and design a different path that is not so heavily weighted around just the money piece. Because when you're focusing just on the money piece, you're definitely going to be stealing from one of the others. So there's got to be a balance across all of them, and an intent and practice. It's not just enough to be intending. There's got to be a practice of consistently looking at each of these areas and saying to myself and yourself and ourselves, am I squishing too many things in? Well, if you are, you're stealing time. Is my health suffering? I mean, like, we got to be honest. We can't be in denial about our health. Our health is at the base, like, the most valuable thing that we have. Sometimes we get over creative, like, oh, something's not working. Let me just go create another thing. Let me just go create another thing. Let me just go create another thing, right? The imagination literally runs wild, right? The imagination runs wild, and it drains or depletes in some of the other areas. Often when the imagination runs wild, we're not exchanging enough in our ecosystem. We're not generating sufficient money. So instead of actually doubling down on what we've already created, or raising our prices or whatever, we end up going back into creative mode. And yeah, all the time we steal from our fun.
I can really relate to this conversation, especially for me. I've been an entrepreneur 30 years as of January. In that first business, I had no concept of time. I gave up family time, health, everything, doing 16, 17-hour days sleeping at my business because I was so out of balance, right? Mm-hmm. I believe with my feminine and the masculine. Like, I was like chasing, striving. And really, it wasn't to accomplish in business. It was to heal wounds inside me that I didn't even know existed at the time, right? Mm-hmm. Wounds of self-worth. So as someone goes through, I'll call it an acronym, the THIEF acronym, I am assuming that as they're working with you, you're helping them to identify it, because they can't see the patterns that they don't know exist, right? But by seeing your acronym in the THIEF model, it must help them go, oh, yeah.
Well, certainly, I mean, part of the work is really getting honest, right, Linda? Yes. Part of the work is really getting honest. And part of the work is acknowledging sometimes that you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes, I find this happens often. People will come to work with me for one thing, but it's holistic. I mean, you know this, and I know your listeners know this, right? As soon as you pull the thread on the sweater, you're going to find that it's going to, go into other areas of your life. So you may come to me and say, I want to, I just need to make more money, right? A lot of times people want to make more money. They think that making more money is going to solve the problem. But what they really, really need to do is value their time more fully. And in valuing their time more fully and acknowledging how important it is for them to have that time. And I'll use myself as an example. Like, I have to have a business model in my business model where my time is highly, highly valued. It's a 5-figure payday to work with me. If people invest to work with me, they are going to invest anywhere between $12,000 and $50,000 to work with me. But what that does is that allows them to have my full and customized attention on exactly, specifically, and precisely all the things, not just one thing, but all the things that are contributing to their discomfort, their disease, their distress, like the presenting distress that they're coming with. But in order for me to do that, in order for me to bring that level of depth, I know that I require plenty of time in the summertime outside in nature, like hours and hours and hours, like many hours outside in nature. And I require in the wintertime many, many hours playing around in my art studio. And it's up to me to know what I need to be able to serve from my overflow rather than drain my cup.
Now, this is really resonating, and it's speaks to what I know from years of serving entrepreneurs and partnering with entrepreneurs like you. Is it's such a struggle for so many. And Angel, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to dive in deeper to this and also talk about some of the biggest challenges you see entrepreneurs face, especially those who are called to a particular purpose or mission. So, my friends, we'll be back in a moment. I'm with Anjel Hartwell of wealthylifementor.com. We'll be right back.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Hey America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTRFM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm with my soul sister, Anjel Hartwell, at wealthylifementor.com. She is the author of the book, Be Heard by Millions and Live Your Destiny. So you covered such important points in our first segment. And one of the things you brought up was challenges, right? What is the biggest challenge you see? Because you serve such a vast sacred community of entrepreneurs who are really here to, with a sacred purpose and mission, right? Which is requiring them to step into the full energy of who they are. What is the biggest challenge you've been seeing?
Yeah, I think I will say there are three challenges, and two of them are much higher, in my opinion, than the third. Most of my people that I work with are visionaries, right? So sometimes there's a challenge with vision, but most of the time they're pretty clear on what their vision is, and they just need a little bit more, focus in that area. But the two biggest areas are voicing their value, and they go together, right? And so if I had to choose only one out of vision, voice, and value that is the biggest challenge, I would say it's the value piece. And the value piece requires you to claim your own value and claim that you actually can transmit to others something of what you have experienced that they will value. And so, just as an example, one of my very early clients, when she came to work with me, there was a piece around, really owning. Sometimes you can win the lottery ticket, Linda. You can oh my God, I suddenly made all this money, but then it disappears, right? That's a symptom, right? If you're on the revenue roller coaster, you're making a lot of money and then it disappears. and then you get back into struggle mode again, it's because you haven't not only claimed your value, but been willing to hold your value, and consistently continue to put it out there into the marketplace using your voice. So one of my early clients, when she came to work with me, this was an area. And as a result of our work together, she was able to actually make the leap from, a 6-figure year to multiple 7 figures, and being able to hold that in a way that was not only sustainable, but that was enjoyable for her. Because there's plenty of different mechanics that you can go about in terms of business modeling. You've got a different business model than I have, Linda, and there are other people who have different business models than either one of us have. And the business model piece of it, the business model is really just the structure that you put in place where you are distributing your value out into the world. So this big challenge around value can often come from trauma in the past. In this particular woman's case, she had lost her mom when she was young. It can come from ancestral stuff or cultural stuff. I had another client who could not find her voice. She couldn't claim her value and find her voice because in her culture, she was Asian, an Asian woman. In her culture, she wasn't allowed to stand out. It was like the messaging from her culture was so strong in her. And after we worked together, she was able to, within 6 weeks, be, landing major media appearances and really bringing her work out into the world in a powerful way. So value's the big one.
Oh, that I can feel even in my own journey. That was a big one for me. I just wish, I had a mentor like you way back 30 years ago, as I had to keep struggling and finding my way and owning myself. And there's something I love that you said at the beginning, because I think it will give all the entrepreneurs and visionaries listening. You and I have both been honest. It's just who we are. As long as I've known you, you're very transparent and authentic. Yes, being an entrepreneur is, I say, it's the biggest, one of the most powerful spiritual development tools you can ever use. And I like to tell people I've struggled because people like to see the snapshot of now, right? Mm-hmm. Like, look at Anjel, look at Linda. But we've had our times of struggle and all of that. Do you help your clients see that it's a normal part of the journey, but they also have to do the work to shift the inner shit if they want to attract the outer stuff?
Well, yeah, let's be real. 90% of success, specifically in the personal and professional development space, I believe that overflows into other industries. However, I know for certain in the personal and professional development space, 90% of the work is to dive into the depths of your own psyche, the depths of your own life journey, the depths of the woundings that you may have experienced, the depths of your lineage, your family lineage, your cultural lineage, to unpack and decondition yourself from all of the conditioning and beliefs and patterns of behavior and habits and thought forms that were inherited or imposed or inflicted upon you as you entered into this world and began your journey on the planet. And our wounds are going to manifest into behaviors. And so I want to actually pull us back momentarily to the definition of wealth, another way of looking at wealth that I actually discovered in 2010, if you're okay with me doing that.
Of course.
Okay. So I want to just invite people to imagine using the analogy of water. And we're going to, again, use another acronym, SAW. So the S is for scarcity, the A is for abundance, and the W is for wealth. So scarcity is like water getting thrown in the desert. And this happens a lot at the beginning of your visionary entrepreneurial journey when you, get called like, oh my God, I have to go tell people about my experience and help everybody, right? And you're out there and you're just like on the street corner yelling at the top of your lungs, this is what happened to me. This is what saved me. This is what helped me. And you're just like pouring it out and pouring it out and pouring it out, but it's going into the desert, right? So that's scarcity. And I'm sure that you have both witnessed and helped women yourself and experienced that yourself, Linda. So scarcity.
Multiple times.
Yeah. So scarcity is like our baseline, and it's throwing water in the desert. Now, the problem with scarcity is when we throw water in the desert, flowers pop up, but then, they disappear because you're in the desert. You're throwing spaghetti against the wall. You're throwing water into the desert. The next level of, I call these the money vibrations. There's 3 levels of vibration for money. The next level is abundance. Abundance is like the ocean. So Linda, imagine just getting yourself dropped right in the center of the Atlantic Ocean. Can you deny that you are surrounded by water? No, you can't. You can't deny that. But what happens when we are in abundance is abundance causes 2 things to happen. When you're in the abundance frequency, 2 things happen. Either you're chasing after the next shiny wave that comes along. You're like just swimming. Oh, look, there's another wave. And you're swimming until you get exhausted from chasing the next shiny wave, the next shiny wave, the next shiny wave, the next shiny wave, the next shiny wave. Or sometimes what happens with abundance is you become overwhelmed because there are so many freaking choices. And one of the illustrations of that is one day I walked into Rite Aid and I happened to just really stop for a minute and observe. There are 48 different varieties of Crest alone toothpaste. 48 different varieties of just Crest toothpaste. It's overwhelming. How do you make a decision? Seriously. So there's an abundance of choices, but you can become paralyzed in the face of this abundance of choices. And then because you're paralyzed, you just sink, right? The third thing that can happen with abundance is you end up getting up on a wave and you start riding that wave and you're like, oh my God, I'm on the wave of abundance. This feels awesome. And then the wave crashes and throws you up onto the shores of scarcity.
Now that process, how do you go if you're in abundance? How do you get thrown into scarcity?
Well, you get thrown into scarcity because you're either chasing or you're treading water. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially the chasing. That makes energetic sense to me.
Yeah, you're either chasing or you're treading water. So if you're sometimes if you're treading water because you can't make a decision, right? You're indecisive. You're surrounded by abundance, like, oh my God, here I am. Abundance is everywhere. But you can't make a decision because it's just too much. It's too overwhelming. So you pull back your energy. And when you pull back your energy, a wave can come along and pick you up, but then it will throw you right onto, because you're in the ocean. You're literally in the ocean of abundance. Okay. So we want to recognize and acknowledge and appreciate and celebrate the abundance. Okay. We definitely want to do that. We definitely want to appreciate it. We want to celebrate it. We want to acknowledge it. But we also want to acknowledge and become aware of how we are behaving relative to the abundance. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And I want to be mindful. I'm not sure if we're ready to go for a break.
Yeah, we're ready. But did you get to the W for wealth?
Well, I'm thinking we do that when we come back from the break.
Okay,
so.
good catch, my friend. Because I'm like, oh my God, I want to keep going, but let's take a break. We're going to be back in a moment. Make sure you tune in to get the rest of the acronym on wealth. I'll be back in a moment with Anjel Hartwell. Please visit her and learn more at wealthylifementor.com. We'll be right back, my friends.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Do you struggle with what's next in your life or business journey? You hold the answers. It's time to go within so you can hear the wisdom of your own truth, unleash your unique power, and be confident in your next step. Sacred Possibilities mentor and spiritual advisor Kimberly Watipka empowers women and female entrepreneurs to embrace a life of wholehearted devotion to themselves and teaches them to live from the truth of their heart rather than other people's expectations, so they can awaken to what the flow of life wants to bring through them. She is a certified EFT practitioner with dual degrees in business and spiritual studies. She is honored to help women come home to themselves and take a stand for who they truly are. Kimberly invites you to learn more about her offerings at KimberlyWatipka.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Me, a cat moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I am so grateful that you're circling up with us today. I am with Anjel Hartwell of WealthyLifeMentor.com. And right before the first break, she was sharing her acronym. And I'm going to let you dive in, but it's SAW, S-A-W. And we had covered scarcity, we covered abundance, and now we're about to cover wealth. So I invite you on, Anjel.
Oh, well, thank you again. So before we went to the break, we talked about scarcity as using water as a metaphor. Scarcity is like water in the desert. Abundance is like getting dropped right smack dab in the middle of the ocean. Like you cannot deny you are surrounded by abundance. And this is all connected to specifically money, but we can apply this to all the other resources that we have: time, health, imagination, our ecosystem of exchange, and fun, right? We can apply this to all 5 areas that are the resources that create the sum total of a wealthy life. Wealth, financially, we're just going to speak financially right now. Wealth, using the water metaphor, is like the Colorado River and the Hoover Dam and Lake Mead, which is a reservoir. So what happens to be in the wealth vibration? The biggest power tool that you can have is by setting up a boundary. So the Hoover Dam is a boundary. And what does this boundary do? This boundary does 2 or 3 things, actually. The first thing it does is it creates this reservoir. So wealth, financially, is having a reservoir. Time, it's having a reservoir. It's having extra time. It's having spare time. It's having spaciousness with your time. Okay, so it creates a reservoir, but the Colorado River is still moving through. So the currency, the money, is still moving through your life and your business, but you have a reservoir, okay? And that requires you to build boundaries and say no and contain. Wealth is a function of containment, 1, concentration, 2, and then channeling 3, because what's happening with the Colorado River, the Hoover Dam, and Lake Mead is the river is still flowing through. So there's still movement, there's still currency. You're not holding on to the currency for dear life and never letting it go. That's a different vibration. But it is filling up this reservoir, and 2 other things are happening there. One, power is being generated. So now, when we're in wealth frequency, we are suddenly generative. We have taken the momentum of the water and the power of the boundary, and we have now channeled that into something completely different: electricity. We are also in this metaphor. The water can also be channeled out of the reservoir to the fields all around that area to water and generate the fruits and the abundant, let's say, the abundant proliferation of food, which again is a totally different thing. We've now generated something from something else. This is alchemy, right? And this is the wealth vibration. When you can be containing and channeling in a generative way while still in this flow where there's a currency and a movement of the current through your business. Does this make sense, Linda?
Oh, it makes complete sense. And I just love the use of metaphor, because you can actually, as you were speaking, you can visualize this because you're using water as a metaphor. So I'm very visual and I could pull it right in. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that I know you are excited about teaching is some of the ways we ward off wealth and some of the ways we can call it in. For the sake of time, I want to make sure we get to the ways. I know that will excite everyone. What can we do to welcome wealth in, like energetically?
Yeah, well, so the first thing we want to do is be in an attitude of welcoming, right? We want to be in an attitude of welcoming. And so, again, this comes back to creating a container, right? It comes back to being willing to step out of abundance and into empowerment and sovereignty, and saying to yourself first, what is it exactly, specifically, and precisely that I really want to welcome into my life? Do I want to welcome more time? And we have to go back to, our original acronym thief. Where am I stealing from myself is a great place to start. Where am I stealing from myself? What's not working? Is my health failing? Is my creativity, my imagination, has it dried up? Is my ecosystem of exchange, am I not generating the kind of money that I know I actually require in order to thrive? And oh my God, Linda, so many people who come to me are so grossly overgiving and undercharging, And I think this is a particular challenge of women.
Oh, I agree. I can remember when I was there, and I also think there's a second layer, women and those in the healing arts.
Absolutely. Oh, definitely. Those are the people that are walking around with the bleeding hearts. They're called bleeding hearts for a reason. Literally, you are bleeding out your life force in a sacrificial way. And I don't believe that our spirit is asking us to sacrifice. To sacrifice ourselves, in fact, is what I want to say. I don't believe that it actually is useful for you to deplete yourself. It is actually counter-logical to deplete yourself in service to your calling. It is your responsibility, in fact, to preserve, conserve, and reserve your time, your health, your imagination, your all of these things. It's on you to make the golden goose continue to produce and not produce on demand, but produce because it is a devotion, because it is a sacred offering into the world. not because it is a let me just bleed myself out here until there's nothing left. We are moving beyond the Piscean age. That was the Piscean age metaphor of the sacrificial lamb. We are here at the beginning of the Aquarian age, and it's all about having a full cup and serving from the overflow.
And isn't that what we all want? I was one of those healers way back. I was a massage therapist and did all that. And I can remember going, oh, that's okay. I'll just do it for free. Wondering why I was physically, emotionally, and financially depleted. And so when you say about giving from the overflow, to me, how can it be any other way? Because we're not being of service if we're coming from exhaustion and resentment.
Exactly right. Exactly right. However, there is incredible, especially for women, still incredibly entrenched societal programming that validates volunteering, right? And that encourages being overly busy. I like to say, don't be seduced by the culture of busy, right? And it's exponentially worse now than it was when you and I first got started in the online space, because literally social media will eat your life. If you, it will use you until you're used up. And the work here is really to be willing to set the boundaries, to be willing to say, I have to choose how I want my life to be created, to take on your role as a sovereign being with self-care at the top of the list, so that you can always be topped up and, serving only from the overflow. And it's only on you to know when you are starting to serve from yourself instead of through yourself. So this is the other, distinction that I want to make here. We're going to go back to the water analogy again. I want you to imagine that source is the spigot on the side of the house, and your clientele and your audience and your community is the garden, and you're the hose. And the water is not going to get to the garden if the hose has, taken parts of itself away, like has depleted itself, has holes in it. It's not going to get to the people that you actually think you are here to serve if it's leaking out all over the place. Your only job is to keep the channel clear and in integrity and well.
I got to tell you something. That's my most favorite analogy. I wrote it down. Source is the spigot, hose is yourself, and the garden is your clients and community. And when you said like the kinks in the hose, I'm like, oh my God, what a beautiful description. Because if we have energetic blocks, personal blocks, the water's not going to get, the abundance is not going to flow through.
And really our only job is to keep inspecting the hose.
Ooh, I love that.
Like, we don't have to do another thing. Just keep inspecting the hose. Is there a hole here? Is there a leak there? Is there a kink? Is it tied in a knot? That's the only thing we really, truly, honestly have to do at the end of the day, is take care of the hose. And so quickly, I want to go over the 5 ways that we ward off wealth. And I'm just going to do this real quick. But
yes, and then we'll take our final break.
Yeah, anybody who wants to find out more, they can just go to my site. But the 5 ways we ward off wealth are, they're all W's to make it simple to remember. Worry. Worry is the top way that we ward off wealth. Withdrawing, which we talked about a little bit about, being overwhelmed and not able to make a decision, so you're pulled back, withdrawing. Waffling, which is another part of decision making, right? We can't make a decision one way or the other, so we're waffling between 2 or more choices. Whining, usually over wine. Usually over wine. This is where we're bitching and moaning and complaining and getting other people to collude with our bitching and moaning and complaining, and without any intent to do anything other than to vent. So that's going to ward off wealth. And then the last one is waiting on. And this looks like either running around taking care of everybody else at your expense, where, you're depleting your cup, or it looks like sitting there waiting on the handsome prince to come along and save you.
Oh my God, these, I wrote them down. I want to make sure I caption: worry, withdrawing, waffling, whining, cracked me up, and waiting on. And I love what you said too, the whining, and you mentioned something about with the intent, you're really not doing anything about it except just complaining.
Correct.
So it's more of the venting that energy. The waffling, like the withdrawing, I see that in a lot of clients. They like, okay, I'm going to do this. And they put themselves out there. And then suddenly, I believe it's an energetic block. In every case is different. They pull back their energy from it. Yep. And I think that comes back to visibility blocks. There's so many layers. Sure. And I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Like the universe is like, hey, she's out. Shit, where'd she go?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
you can't get the money, you can't get the clients, you can't get any of those things if you're pulling out. It's a partnership, right?
Exactly. I tell them it's a dance with the divine, and the divine's always asking you to lead. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take the first step on the dance floor, it's like, hey, where's my dance partner? But it feels like on the waiting on your last step, it's like the divine's waiting on you to get clear and make a decision. So, I love this. Hint, hint, this would make a great article topic. So I'll be back in a moment with the amazing Anjel Hartwell of wealthylifementor.com. I want to invite you to visit her site because you can dive deeper into everything that we're talking about today. So again, wealthylifementor.com. We'll be back in a moment for our last segment.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Are you struggling to grow your mission-driven business in a way that feeds your soul and fulfills your purpose? When you discover your unique human design and divine blueprint, you'll feel empowered in your business, aligned with your inner wisdom, and open to the flow of abundance and success. Nancy O'Keefe is a certified human design specialist and intuitive business coach, successfully coaching entrepreneurs for over 25 years. She is passionate about helping you understand your divine design and your personal formula for success. She knows what it takes after creating her own multi-seven-figure firm. Nancy helps women peel back the layers of who they've been taught to be to reveal who they truly are, so they can build an abundant and sustainable business that feeds their soul. Schedule your complimentary call today at nancyokeefecoaching.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I am excited about this whole conversation today. You should see I have 2 pages of notes here. So right before the break, I was talking with Anjel, and she shared 5 ways we ward off wealth. I'm going to recapture them: worry, withdrawing, waffling, whining, and waiting on. So let's say a listener right now says, oh my goodness, I can really relate that I'm doing 1, 2, or maybe all 5 of these. What would you advise them?
Yeah, well, again, we're gonna like the top level piece of this, and there are actually 5 antidotes to each of these ways that we ward off wealth. There are 5 specific antidotes. And people can find out more by taking the quiz, which is at my site. You've mentioned my site a few times, and there's a little button to take a quiz there that will let you know what your level of readiness is for wealth. But I think at the top level, the meta level that I want to talk about is we've got to welcome, right? We've got to be in a state of welcoming. And how do we welcome? You know, if you think about it, Linda, like we'll just use the analogy of a restaurant. Let's say we'll use the analogy of a restaurant. Okay, so you have this amazing like recipe from your great grandmother, and you're like, oh my God, every time I serve my friends this, they love it. I think I'm going to open a restaurant. You're going to open up the restaurant. Well, you're not going to stand on the street corner and just, you know, all day, every day, keep handing out the food, right? Because sooner or later, you're going to run out. You're not making money. You got to make money. If we're talking about being in business, you've got to make money. And so you've got to have a container. You've got to have a container for the money exchange to happen. And how do we have a container? We have a container by getting clear on what it is that we require in order to thrive, not just survive, not just get by, not to be on credit card life support, but to thrive. And so when we are in this state of welcoming, what we want to welcome is wealth. We want to welcome well-being. We want to welcome well-being across all of these areas. And we want to get back to the money analogy, one way that we can set boundaries. Containers are basically boundaries, right? It's another word for boundaries. You know, whatever's in is what's in, and whatever's out is what's out. That's how a container works, right? And so we can use just even price points as a boundary, right? So if we are wanting to serve or know that we're called to serve people who are very high level visionaries, and we know that we need, I'm using myself as an example again, we need plenty of time in the summer to be running around in nature and plenty of time in the winter to be playing with my art studio. In order for me to be serving from my overflow, my pricing has to be at a certain level. And if I erode my own boundaries, I am automatically creating dis-ease for myself. So pricing is a huge way that we can exercise our boundaries. And it's something that I think we must, as women especially, as healers especially, we must become clear that if the wealth, the vast amount of financial wealth in the world is held right now in dysfunctional systems or by dysfunctional, degrading, destructive people, how is that going to move out of that paradigm if we do not open ourselves up and create a welcoming space for that money to flow towards wellness?
I just love how when we heal ourselves, this is what I just took from that that part of the conversation. When we heal ourselves, we actually are making a difference in the whole world because we're part of the new paradigm. When we heal our wealth and abundance blocks, we're part of healing the whole wealth system. And that's such a powerful insight for our listeners. And I have a question in the last moment that we have is, you have a quiz on your website that you mentioned earlier. Is the quiz for everyone or specifically for entrepreneurs?
Oh, it's for everyone. You know,
that's what I was hoping you'd say, because I'm like, oh my God.
It's definitely for everyone. It's what we call our wealth. It's the wealth readiness quiz. And one of the things that can sometimes happen for people is that, they'll take the quiz and they might be a professional. They might be in the corner office, an executive at some institution, and they know that they can't stay there anymore because it's toxic, but they don't know how they're going to take and, replicate the amount of money that they've been making. And they're in a place where they need to get some support. Yes, certainly take the quiz and see what your wealth readiness is, because if you are in that place, you definitely want to get the support to transmute any of these issues and heal these blocks and learn how to say no and to exercise your no muscle and set these boundaries so that you can create a wealthy life by design. Is it for entrepreneurs? Absolutely. Is it for professionals? Absolutely. It's pretty much set up for anybody to get clear on their own wealthy life readiness.
What a sacred offering, my friends. And I want to invite everyone as we come to a close of our time together. Visit wealthylifementor.com, take the quiz, grab a copy of Anjel's book, Be Heard by Millions and Live Your Destiny, and be sure to follow her across all platforms and tune into her extraordinary podcast. Anjel, I want to thank you for joining me today, and I always love circling up with you, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy.
Well, thank you. And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, and choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.